Is this pistol with a crazy design worth $5,000? What makes it something so special? Is it really as good as a premium 2011? And can it shred in competition? What are the downsides to this gun? All that and more. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and this is the Laugo Arms Alien Creator Evolution Limited Optics. You see what they did there? That automatically gives it a better nickname of CeeLo. Does that make me crazy? Possibly. Also, it is 2024, gents, and I need my dads in the audience to step up. You have the most important job in the world, and to that point, let me support you with this. What's the best part of Switzerland? I don't know, but their flag is a big plus. So first things first, before we get started with kind of the review piece, you have to kind of understand how this gun works to really begin to appreciate just how different it is and why the name Alien is appropriate for a gun like this. Number one, the first thing that you're probably aware of is the barrel is super duper low in the slide. The bore axis is pretty much negative as your hand sits higher than the midline of the bore behind the gun. That's gonna mean something when we talk about how the gun shoots, but what it means is that there's not very much muzzle lift. The second thing is it's not a Browning action pistol. It actually is a gas delayed blowback pistol, which means the barrel is fixed in the frame, so the accuracy is off the charts, but it also means some pretty wild stuff that the gun doesn't have any slide rails, so like the lube package and stuff like that that you're used to isn't going to work on this pistol. I'm going to make a separate video about how to take down and clean and lube this gun. I don't normally do that stuff, but this is so bizarre, and when I was looking for it, there wasn't anything out there, so there you go. So the way this gun works and what makes it so special and how it operates is, as I mentioned, there are no slide rails. So what happens, you look at this and you're thinking, that's the chamber, that's where the bullet sits. No, the chamber is actually way down in there. You probably can't even see it, but the chamber's like right there on the pistol down in the frame. What you're seeing is the top of the gas port. The gas port siphons off gas from the cartridge going off and pushes that gas against the piston that holds the slide in battery and locked up until the bullet exits the barrel, and once the ejecta leaves, pressure goes down, slide goes to the rear, kicks out case, comes forward, picks up another one, and the process repeats. What does that mean? It means two things. Number one, you can't put a bunch of oil in there because it's a gas-operated pistol. It's going to attract a lot of contaminants. A really thin oil that adheres to the surface and doesn't attract much particulate is going to work better than a really viscous heavy oil. The modern Spartan Systems accuracy oil, I've got a link in the description for it. If you use it as like a barrier film, it's going to work better in this gun. I was at the match that I shot with this gun, talked to another Alien shooter, and we compared how our slides were moving in the match so far. My slide was silky smooth and very slippery. His was kind of gummy. It was austere conditions because it was like 44 degrees outside. So the heavier viscous stuff was kind of getting tacky and not moving around well, whereas mine was just running freely. The other weird thing that it means about the pistol is that you can't shoot coated bullets. Now, a lot of you guys who are getting into the compensator game have learned the hard way that polymer coated bullets will gum up a compensator in a way that makes it very difficult to clean. That same gumming up process is going to happen on the gas system and make the gun not work. So you're going to have to shoot FMJ or JHP bullets when you're shooting this gun. So all of that combined creates a gun that doesn't have any muzzle lift and is more accurate, possibly the most accurate handgun I've ever shot. So that is a nice setup to talk about the other features in the gun. But first, I need to talk about Gun Mag Warehouse. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be real. It's just gentlemen. This video is sponsored by Gun Mag Warehouse, a company that's awful and you shouldn't go to their website. They probably don't have anything you want. You're probably looking on the internet for like new waifu pillows or Minecraft plushies, and they don't carry any of that stuff. No, Gun Mag Warehouse only carries stuff that you would like and appreciate on the range at a fair and reasonable price. But that's not what you're into, so don't go to their website. I can't prove it as a fact, but I'm pretty sure that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't shop at Gun Mag Warehouse, and Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, she would probably call it Gun Clip Warehouse. And she probably doesn't shop there either. So think about what you do in your free time and think to yourself, am I the kind of person that would shop at Gun Mag Warehouse? I can't answer that question for you. You're gonna have to do it yourself. I can't tell you their website and you can't figure it out, so don't go to their website. Thank you to Gun Mag Warehouse for sponsoring this video. So how did I get my hands on this brand new pistol? Well, this is not my pistol. It is on loan to me from one of the people over at Laugo Arms USA. I ran into them at SHOT Show and said, hey, you're making a USPSA specific pistol. I happen to be one of the bigger YouTube USPSA shooters. If you can get this gun to me by Valentine's Day, I can shoot it in a major match and get a lot of stage footage with it. They made it happen and let me borrow one of their personal guns, and I shot it in the match. No money is exchanged. I paid for my ammo. There's no financial interest, blah, blah, blah. I have to send the gun back. So there you go. Now, I have no doubt that you have seen videos on the Alien by other cringe-fluencers on YouTube, but they don't shoot USPSA with it, and that's what I've done. That's important because the name of the gun, the CLO, the limited optics portion, means that the gun is specially designed for sport shooting in the US market, specifically limited optics division in USPSA, and they modified the old Alien design to kind of make that gun stand out. So what they did first and foremost is they mimicked the grip angle of a 2011. Now, it still doesn't feel like a 2011 because the back of the gun, because it's an internal hammer-fired gun, feels almost like a striker-fired pistol. It has a good sculpt to it at the grip tank, but when you're presenting the gun, it presents like a 2011. What's weird about that is if you look at the old gun, it very much had like a Glock grip angle, possibly one that's more extreme, and the magazines that they are using with this gun are the same as the old gun, which means they had to change the internal geometry. So while this gun shoots like a 2011, it reloads like a Glock, meaning that if you use a standard reload where you're just trying to put your finger on the tip of the mag well and just slam it into the front of the mag well, you're going to run into mag binding problems. And what's going to happen is you tuck your elbow in more and hit the back of the mag well with the magazine, and you can throw mags into it no problem. It does take some getting used to, especially if you're like a hard 2011 guy and are just used to doing that over and over again. You will take some adjustment. The other big change is people talked about how hot the gun gets. There's a bit of a standoff device on the rib, and they've changed the design of the rib so that you can't put your hands on the hot part of the gun, and there's a big old thumb rest. Now, I don't know if this is the out-of-the-box location on the thumb rest because this is a gentleman's personal gun. With where it lands for me, I have size XL gloved hands, and it's basically perfect, but there is an amount of adjustment. You can just loosen up the screws that are here, move the thumb rest to the back so small-handed shooters can find a home on it too. So that changed as well. They also have their retro optic mount, which is this little bridge that you can kind of see right there. The retro optic mount makes the gun legal for USPSA, which requires the optic to ride on the slide, and it can't sit on the frame, which they considered this previously. Now, all of that to say, with this Go Fast kit put on the gun, you cannot rack at the forward side of the gun. The little rib is too high, and the thumb rest is going to get in your way, which means your optic has become a slide racker. Not my favorite way to rack a slide on an optic, but I mean, you could also, I guess, go down here as well if that's more your speed, but just using it as a charging handle seems to work okay. The magwell, as I mentioned, is absolutely cavernous and brilliant. It's a huge flower pot. It's a really great magwell. Coming up the back strap of the gun has a very fine checkering, as does the front strap, which really does plant the gun in your hand. It has G10 grips with a little bit of a palm swell so you can get behind the gun with your support hand, which contributes to the muzzle not lifting. The controls are brilliantly located and well designed. They've got kind of that 45 offset on the mag button, which is one of my favorite things, so it's very easy to dump mags. If you're right-handed, you'll be happy with where the slide release is. If you're left-handed, you can just cry and be emo and do other things left-handed people do. I don't know what y'all do, I'm not left-handed. The trigger is absolutely bonkers. Now, there is a hammer position indicator. They say that the trigger pulls from the factory at 3.3 pounds. Now, looking at the trigger pull, you take up the slack in the trigger safety and then you're on the wall. There is no movement on the trigger beyond that. And then there is about a 3.3 pound trigger pull, which I would say to you, absolutely not. That is a way lighter pull. That's a 2.5 pound to a sub 2 pound trigger.
Huh. Dude, no way. There's no way.
Until I put my Lyman digital trigger scale on it, in which case it was exactly 3.3 pounds. It didn't seem possible, but there we are. The magazines, and it will ship with one magazine, but at the time, if you order one, you have the opportunity to purchase up to 3 more of these magazines for a steep discount. They normally sell for about 140 bucks, but you can buy them for 100 bucks at the time you purchase the pistol. These are super nice magazines. Now, the base pads are possibly the nicest ones being made. They say they're 22 rounds. It's even stamped on the back of the base pad right there that it's 22 rounds. The gun will not cycle when the spring is new with 22 rounds in it. If you try to go 22 plus 1, the gun doesn't work. So you can either change the spring and follower, which I would honestly recommend. And from what I'm hearing, you can get 22 plus 1 and reload to 22. I was having to reload to 21 all day. Now, the base pad is removable in a way that no other guns that I'm aware of do, where it's completely toolless and super fast. It looks like a star key right there on the front of the magazine. Don't twist it, just pull it straight down. and the base pad will lift off the base pad right there. You can pull the spring and follower and clean the mag tube. Really, really good design. I understand why they're charging a premium for it. With this configuration of the gun, it says limited optics right in the title of the gun. There are no iron sights available, so if you want to live in the past and pretend like this isn't a super awesome RoboCop xenomorph fighting gun from the future, then you can't do it with this gun. You can only fight robots and aliens with this gun because it looks awesome and it's from the future and it only takes red dots. That's a good opportunity to talk about the rig that I ran the gun in. So I used a double alpha flex holster with the A insert and just one of the little side panel things. I can't remember what thickness it was. Fit just fine, works great in that gun, very fast draw, doesn't bind. For the belt and mag pouches, I used the Ghost 360 mag pouches on the Ghost belt. They are universal. They take 2011 mags, CZ mags, whatever I happen to put in them, and they happen to take Alien mags. If you want to save 10% on Ghost products at ghostholsterdirect.com, use code GEARUP10. I would sure appreciate it. And that's really going to be the holster selection that you have is the double alpha flex and possibly the CR Speed Ultra. The CR Speed Ultra is configurable to basically any type of gun, as is the double alpha flex, and that's going to be what it takes because the thumb rest is absolutely massive. So let's talk about how the gun performs, and specifically in a match context, and then we'll talk about kind of some downsides of the design. I finished up filming, putting another couple hundred rounds on the square range after I'd shot it. I'd cleaned it before I went to the match, and that was it, and the gun ran fine up to about 500 rounds. Being completely out of practice, what I did find with the gun is that it moves around like an open gun. The bore axis being so low, and the fact that it is a 44.5 ounce pistol with a magazine and an SRO optic means that the gun doesn't lift like basically at all, much like an open gun. In fact, the trigger is so nice you can run the gun like an open gun. And I would describe the recoil impulse as very much being like an open gun, meaning that it does slap in your palm a little bit and it fatigues your elbows and your wrists a little bit more than a gun that has more muzzle flip and is losing energy through rotation, because this gun basically doesn't rotate. The profile of the gun and how it's balanced, it has a slight forward balance without the magazine, but when you put the magazine, especially when it's loaded into the gun, it is basically perfectly balanced, and balance matters a whole lot for performance shooting. If you get that really muzzle heavy gun, it's like putting a hot dog on a skewer and roasting it, and you know when you go like that and it just feels like it wants to wobble, that's what shooting a muzzle heavy gun is like. This gun is pretty much perfectly balanced. You should subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be comparing this to high-end 2011s and other popular guns in competition. My initial hypothesis is that this gun will perform better, but I haven't filmed that video yet, so be sure you're subscribed. So for a non-compensated gun, this gun is absolutely brilliant. I think it probably is a competitive advantage. The gun handles really well. I did get slowed down on the reloads trying to do that, but I mean really the lack of practice and skill is probably what slowed me down more than anything. I ended up finishing 6th in a field of 47 in limited optics, and I think 13th of 172 overall. So not a bad finish, 88% on both the division and the match, so decent-ish finish. Now, I didn't get the most out of this gun, either for me or just what the gun is capable of. I didn't understand the line. Now, what did happen is toward the end of the day, as I began to understand how to return the gun and recoil and how the gun needed to be run, the, hammered pairs on the targets went from looking like that to kind of getting closer to this as I was able to return the gun from recoil better. That's not to say all guns can't do that. It's just really easy to do because within 300 rounds on this pistol, I was starting to stack shots in a pretty meaningful way. That insane accuracy is largely due to the fact that the barrel is fixed in the slide and doesn't move. It is a blowback gun, so the barrel is fixed. You get excellent accuracy out of fixed barrel guns, so this gun is no exception to that rule. Swinging the gun in transition is very pleasurable because of how the gun is balanced. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of weight out front, so it stops very precisely. I mean, I just like the gun all the way around. All in all, I love the way the gun shoots. I love the way the gun handles. I think it's awesome. It probably is an edge over a 2011 style pistol, but we'll find out in that comparison video. So what are the downsides of this pistol? Number one, it can't shoot the cheap projectiles that a lot of competition shooters like to shoot. The polymer coated bullets are a huge sensation in competitive shooting. Can't use them in this gun. Two, the gun takes down a little bit weird. Watch the other video for that. I'll show you how to do it, but it is kind of weird and it requires pushing on this crazy hammer position indicator. Three, it's a 2011 in the streets, but a Glock in the reload. Yeah. The way you have to hold the gun to get it to reload is unlike any other gun, and I mean, you're hitting the back of the mag well to make sure the magazines go in like you need them to. It's a technique change. I'm sure I can get used to it, but it is not like any other pistol. Number 4, the gun does dump more energy into your arms. That's not a big deal in a match context because you're only shooting a couple hundred rounds. But if you're doing like a 2-day training class, shooting like 1,000 rounds in a couple days or whatever, I imagine that your joints would fatigue more shooting this gun than potentially some of the other guns that have more muzzle rotation. 5, the mags are expensive, but I mean, what did you really expect? It is a $5,000 gun. Did you expect to spend less than $100 on magazines? No, it doesn't take Glock mags. They don't make it in 10 mil or 45 or any of that other craziness. It is a 9mm competition gun built for competition. 6, holster support is going to be limited to probably race holsters, which are very expensive due to the use of the thumb rest. I imagine a Kydex company is probably going to make a Creator Evolution Kydex bucket for it eventually, but you're gonna not be able to use the thumb rest more than probably. And that's really it as far as the downsides as far as I'm concerned. And the gun is just an absolute riot to shoot. It's not like shooting any other gun. It does truly feel special. It's absolutely crazy. The accuracy, as I talked about, is off the charts. It's an awesome gun. And I think it's significant because like the hammer rides inside this upper rib, the frame, like it doesn't like come up and hit the primer. It comes down from the rib and hits the back of the cartridge. It's a completely different recoil system than what most other pistols are. I'm not gonna say all pistols ever, but I'm not aware of any other gun that has a gas operation quite like this. So I'm gonna shoot that comparison video, make sure you're subscribed to see it. But in the meantime, if you wanna check out this video on the Bull Armory Air, that's also a very cool competition pistol.